So on today's episode, we're going to be talking to the marketer behind $1 million Kickstarter campaigns. It's a brilliant episode you don't want to miss, so do stay tuned. Hi guys, welcome to the 2x eCommerce podcast show. So the interview you're about to listen to is an interview I had with Roy Morejon. He is the founder of a company called, an agency actually, called Enventys Partners. Now they are a crowdfunding house essentially, and they do right from product development through to marketing through to post e-commerce. Now what we talk predominantly about is their crowdfunding campaigns and essentially their product development as well as a bit of e-commerce. Now if you recall my my interview with Dembski from Unbound Merino a few episodes back, we talked about the fact that they had a fundraising target of about $30,000 and they smashed that within 12 hours, and they hit $400,000 on their Indiegogo campaign. And the company behind that success was, you guessed it, Enventys Partners. So I made sure I chased up with Enventys Partners and got one of their co-founders on, and that's who Roy is. They're pretty much the agency behind some of the biggest crowdfunding campaigns you see. I bet you that 1 in 5, 1 in 6 of the big crowdfunding campaigns are run by this company. They have a team of marketers, designers, videographers, and analysts that pretty much work on crowdfunding campaigns. Now, on this interview, we talked about how they helped a kitchenware brand called Mycin. Mycin has raised over $10 million from Kickstarter alone, from a few, from a handful of campaigns they've run. We talked about Lark. That's another brand I know personally, and they had a crowdfunding campaign. This is their second crowdfunding campaign. The target was $50,000. They made $50,000 in 3 minutes. Can you imagine? 3 minutes, and they've well surpassed. I think they're up to $1 million with that particular. With that particular brand. And then we also talked about Bunch of Balloons. They raised about $900,000 on Kickstarter in the very early days of Kickstarter, run again by his company. Most importantly, they got a product feature on the Today Show, Good Morning America, and several top tier publications. Most $1 million Kickstarter campaigns basically are powered by this company. They're supported in some way, shape, or form by this company, Enventys. And Roy is an authority, when it comes to that. He's an expert marketer, in that respect. So if you're looking to run Kickstarter campaigns at some point, any crowdfunding campaigns at some point, I would implore you to really listen in to this episode, because this episode has got some gems, gems of knowledge. Listen carefully, take notes. It's a brilliant episode, and you get some insights into crowdfunding. So enjoy this episode, and I will catch you on the other side. Cheers. Welcome everybody to the 2x e-commerce podcast, the podcast dedicated to rapid growth in online retail. And I'm your host, Kunle Campbell. And if you're looking to grow metrics such as conversions, average order value, repeat customers, traffic, and ultimately sales, I look for the experts in all of these aspects of growing an e-commerce business, and I bring them to the show. Speaking of which, our guest today, Roy Morejon, he is been recommended by 2-3 people because he knows his stuff in the crowdfunding space. He offers over 20 years experience in delivering digital marketing campaigns for entrepreneurs, startups, and transforming companies. Now, why is he's here is just to take us through what it takes to launch a product, through crowdfunding to becoming an e-commerce brand, essentially finding that community through crowdfunding and then becoming an established brand or establishing that brand in e-commerce. I'm not going to babble too much, but if you remember on Bound Marino, his agency basically was the fire engine, or was the engine behind that crowdfunding campaign, which was super successful, and he has been behind many others. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome Roy to the show. Welcome, Roy.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you for having me on the show, and hopefully impart some wisdom on the crowd out there.
Before we kick off today's show, I'd like to give a quick shout out to our sponsors. Is your e-commerce store powered by Magento, BigCommerce, Commerce Cloud, WooCommerce, or a custom CAT platform? Is it slow? Does it have too many fields or involves too many steps to complete a purchase? Enter Bolt. It's the fastest e-commerce checkout in the industry, period. Bolt loads 10x faster than native checkouts with an average checkout duration of just over 30 seconds. Bolt is mobile native with no scroll on mobile screens. It offers a zero fraud guarantee and has 42% fewer fields than native checkouts. Bolt supports Stripe, Apple Pay, PayPal, and several more payment gateways and providers. Bolt helped luxury sunglasses brand Dita reduce checkout abandonment by 32%, which resulted in a 50% conversion rate uplift. Don't lose customers at checkout, use Bolt. Bolt is offering a completely free bottom of funnel checkout audit to 2x e-commerce listeners. Head over to bolt.com/2x to get your free checkout audit now. That's bolt.com/2x. Fantastic. Right. So you are you're founder and CEO of Enventys Partners, right?
Correct. Yeah. Co-founder and president. Yep.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. Do you want to talk about yourself and Enventys, and we'll take it from there?
Yeah, certainly. Like I said, yeah, so co-founder, president of Enventys Partners. We are a full-service turnkey product launch company. So what all those words mean is basically we can take your napkin sketch product idea and bring that product idea to market full service. So we have an entire engineering team that can build it, prototype it, engineer it, put it all together. Then we have studio where we can film it and photograph it. And we have an entire marketing team that can help with the overall content, strategy, brand positioning of that product idea and innovation, figure out what those features and benefits are, and use crowdfunding as a litmus test in terms of finding market validation for that idea and seeing if we can pre-sell enough units to whether it's fulfill an initial MOQ or actually build a brand and business around that and future SKUs that come out of it. And then we have our, e-commerce team that continues to run marketing for products once they ship and deliver.
Okay, so it's a full turnkey solution, end to end. Where do we start? Should we start out with people who have ideas? Let's talk about ideas. Why do many ideas not come to fruition? What is the major holdback? I can give you hundreds of examples from a personal standpoint and as well as from my circle. Why? What is the major drawback? And I'll be interested to find out more.
I think overall humans don't like to fail. And I think with bringing a product to market, there's certainly a lot of failures or a lot of learnings along the way. And I think people think it potentially costs more money than it does to bring a product to market, whether it be, an Unbound Merino or, another product, whatever it may be. But I think, people all have ideas. We all have product ideas or innovations in our head or small little hacks that we do for our personal life to save us a minute here and there. And likely there's a million other people that could use that product or that hack to save their time or enjoy and have a better life. So really it's a matter of, thinking outside of the box, of course, in terms of the innovation itself and really dedicating some time to it. I think, during this pandemic, more people have been stuck at home and, in their thoughts and board, whatever it may be, but lots of innovation is now coming out of that we're seeing, and we're working on some amazing innovation, not only on like the PPE side of things, but just innovations to cure boredom. Just yesterday, we ended up launching a product called Stair Slide, which is basically a slide for kids to go down the staircase on.
Yeah.
And I know before it was just like I'd jump in a laundry basket when I was a kid and just fly down and,
Exactly.
break my face and do all those fun things. But this innovation truly came out of the pandemic in terms of, hey, my kids need something else to do, and why not send them down a staircase safely? So we launched that innovation yesterday, and it's already done, I think $35,000 in the first day in pre-sales, again, before the product has even been made. So, I think there's an amazing opportunity, cheaper than ever before, to launch a product using Kickstarter as a means of validating that idea and getting feedback from the consumers that are actually purchasing it. It allows you to have a one-on-one conversation with your customer, where you just cannot really do that with an Amazon. Yes, you can do it with a Shopify, WooCommerce, whatever it may be, but these folks are not only buying the product, but saying, hey, it'd be cool if you did this, or added this feature, or changed that color, or whatever version 2, 3, 4 may be. These customers want to have a say in potentially the direction of your company. And that just, hasn't happened before. And, since Kickstarter launched back in 2009, they've launched over 180,000 successful products and raised, capital of over $5 billion now is transacted successfully through Kickstarter. So it's just an amazing platform to really launch and see if there is a crowd for your innovation.
Besides Kickstarter, are there any other platforms you would recommend or use typically?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of reward-based crowdfunding, so physical products, I give you $100, you give me a product back. There's really only two. I mean, Kickstarter and Indiegogo are the main two platforms out there. Both have their pros and cons in terms of, fees are pretty much the same, 5% for each, site in terms of whatever you launch on there. The platform takes a percentage. And then each one of them kind of has different back ends or front ends or marketing support, lack of support, should I say, for either campaign that launches on their sites.
Which you prefer and why?
Kickstarter is definitely our preference. We see a much better return on our ad spend on their platform. The site's faster, optimizes better. And that early adopter community truly lives on that site, where they've got over 18 million people that have backed at least one project. And out of that, a third, about 6.5 million folks, have backed more than one project. So for us, we're always going after those super backers, if you will, the folks that are constantly investing into, new innovative products and really are the tip, of the spear in terms of early adopters wanting the product before you ever see it on the shelves of a, retail store or an Amazon.
Okay, so you talked about the slide, the staircase slide, which a lot of us just mumble together. We get we could get a bucket and then put it down and slide down as kids. Our kids do that.
Yeah.
It's how quickly do you prototype the idea? What were your steps towards getting that prototype? Obviously, you'd probably need an industrial designer, and you'd need to get a mold, I would think.
Yep.
And so could you just break it down and for listeners?
Yeah, so on the product development side, typically we go through about 9 separate phases to bring a product to market in terms of a final prototype or a working prototype, whatever it may be. Something that's good enough that we can use, we can showcase, we can demonstrate, we can take photos of, that it looks like it's ready to ship. So first phase typically begins with just a patent search. Let's see if something out there already exists. Can we make it better? Can we license the patent? Or is this completely novel, which may be quite rare these days, just with the amount of patents that are out there. But likely there may be an opportunity there. So really figuring out, has this been done before? If not, okay, let's figure out what the ergonomics of it are. Let's figure out the dimensions of a staircase, which are pretty much universal around the world. So we know how tall a step is. How many steps can we get this piece of plastic on? Are they going to sit on top of each other? Figuring out really kind of what does that look like? How many do we need per staircase? How many steps are on the average staircase in the world? And figuring out all of that, demand or what a customer is going to think about when they purchase this. So from the initial phase of the prototyping and the building, then it completely can go over to the engineering team in terms of industrial design and what does that look like, CADing it out and doing the design work for it, and then potentially 3D printing, a smaller version of it to be like, okay, the, stairs look like this, the slide looks like this, what does the railing look like, how high up does it go, how much weight can it support when it sits on top of each other, does it matter if it's a wood staircase or a carpeted staircase, how is it going to grip? So there's so many different avenues that you even have to think of a simple product like that, where you just have to design it correctly so that it can fit the most households for this instance.
Okay. And you obviously bring it to Kickstarter. You need to create. You have one prototype using Kickstarter. What does the process look like from that prototype to bringing it to Kickstarter?
Yeah. So once the prototype's finished, congrats, you've made it a long way, right?
Mm-hmm.
But once that's done, then it begins kind of the storytelling and the branding and the content side of things. Like what is the story we want to tell about this brand that we want to grow up? How did this innovation come to market? What was the impetus of that aha moment? And I'm finally going to do it. So really then, we take the product and we film it. We do some photography. We get some actors, actresses, kids in this case, to do all the photography for it, to showcase it and see that it's safe to use and your kids are having a lot of fun on it, and all of that, sort of thing, so they can put themselves in that position with, oh, my kids would love this, right?
Right.
So once we figure out all of that, then it's the positioning of who's going to buy this. What's our avatar look like? Likely it's, moms and dads that have young kids, probably between 2 and 8, maybe 2 and 10, depending on the weight that it can hold, in terms of, okay, now we know who the avatar is. How do we talk to them? How do we engage them? What are they looking for? What are the questions that they're going to ask? How do we answer those questions for them? So really it begins that dialogue in terms of how we're telling that story and how we're check marking, all of their, questions that they may have about it, in terms of solving all of those problems that they have. And once we do that, then it's really a matter of, okay, now we have to figure out the pricing on this. How are we going to ship it? What's the shipping cost? How are we going to package it? Are we doing bundles, 1-pack, 2-pack, 3-pack, 4-pack, whatever it may be? What's the weight? What's the shipping cost? Are we shipping internationally, or are we only shipping domestically here in the States? All of those questions have to be answered before we launch it. And, before the launch is really where a lot of the marketing work gets done in terms of building up that buzz and building the crowd before you bring it to the crowdfunding site. This is not a field of dreams, if you build it, they will come moment. Crowdfunding truly takes a ton of marketing and a ton of support behind the scenes, where much of it is done before the campaign ever launches, to truly see what resonates with the crowd or the audience that you're going to be targeting. What price are they willing to pay for it? What objections do they have about the product? We're solving all of those questions before we launch the campaign with pre-campaign marketing and lead generation to get folks into our funnel, educating them on it, testing price points for it, testing use cases for it, and gathering as much feedback from that early crowd as we can with our Facebook ads team, bringing them into our funnel, email drip sequence, getting them ready for the launch. So on launch day, we've got hundreds, if not thousands, of supporters ready to back and pledge the campaign for the first time on launch day. So they're getting the best early bird pricing on that product. Yeah.
The founder of Live Watches, he came on the show. His name is Chaz, a few episodes back. And he said they had to build their email database, their pre-sale email database, to about 10,000 before they launched on Kickstarter. And once they did that, by midday of the first day of their launch, they'd raised that hits the campaign targets. It seems it is very important. A lot of people don't seem to see that bit of a crowdfunding campaign. Now, another thing I'm seeing on Facebook, speaking of Facebook, is I found that not every brand that goes on a Kickstarter campaign will promote via their official Facebook page. I've noticed that there'd be awesome discovery, something like that, or big tech. names, general names that, focus on, they're just niche names like general pages.
Yep.
And I've noticed they're the ones, those pages seem to be at the forefront of the promotion of novel products about to launch on Kickstarter. Do you know why this is the case rather than the actual brand? Why are these strategies employed? And do they sort of employ a multi-page strategy where you're running Facebook ads from multiple pages or from multiple accounts to increase the velocity?
Yeah, so we employ that. We started that years and years ago in terms of setting up niche category Facebook pages based on the innovation tech category that the product is in. So best gadgets or top innovations or outdoor gadgets, whatever it may be, to align a little bit better with that consumer, to be like, I understand you love the outdoors, you're going to love this outdoor product that we're advertising to you. And the reason also we use that is just because we have pre-existing lookalike audiences around multiple campaigns that we're running, that we can do better targeting and traffic, in terms of, increased conversion rates on these campaigns with those different groups that we're targeting, because we have audiences inside of those groups that just want camping gear, that just want fashion, that just want kitchen gadgets. Those folks engage at a much higher rate. So we employ, advertising across multiple different Facebook ad pages, because the reason many times we don't use the company's page is because it's not a branding exercise. We are not there because they're an unknown brand, likely. So the consumer is going to be like, why is X, Y, and Z camping targeting me, right? Or something like that, where it's more camping gadgets in this instance, again, I'll keep going down, is going to convert a little bit better just because that they understand you in terms of, instead of the brand name itself, it's actually more of a category or generic, innovations that we can target those folks on. So yeah, likely you're seeing our ads because, we're trying to target across, understanding what those audiences look like, as well as the lookalike audiences that we've built up over the years in terms of who these consumers are and where they hang out online. We just see a better conversion rate on them.
Yeah, I get the longevity there, because if for an agency, the longer you have that history, the more you're able to take clients on and build those assets. Essentially, they're your assets. Okay, that makes sense. Okay, you touched briefly on pricing, and another one of our guests who came in from a crowdfunding standpoint, and they're fully e-commerce now, was like, okay, so he was the same guy, Chaz, who was like selling watches, selling a particular brand. He was trying to launch it via crowdfunding, and he wanted to get like family and friends, and most of his friends are like, most of his cycling buddies, were he reached out to most of his cycling buddies. So one of the bundles was like cycling gear, which totally had nothing to do with the watches he was selling via Kickstarter. From your opinion, what is the most optimal way to bundle products so you get a lot of support from Kickstarter? Is there any optimal number? Or is there any optimal combination? Do you throw goodies in to gain momentum? Because I see that as, rather than a direct conversion rate optimization hack, it's more like increasing the motivation of people to want to support it, and there has to be some sort of formula towards optimally presenting those bundles and offers, right? Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Did you know that cloud-hosted e-commerce platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce do not provide automatic backups? Rewind steps in to protect Shopify and BigCommerce stores with automatic backups. Rewind is trusted by over 25,000 stores. Install Rewind and get to test it for free over 7 days. And to extend the 7-day trial to 30 days, head over to rewind.io, their website, and mention 2x eCommerce.
Absolutely. Yeah. So a lot of that work actually gets done before the campaign ever launches. Mm-hmm. We're engaging the crowd and saying, hey, you wanted this camping gadget. Great. Now you're in our sequence, and we start following up with you. Hey, we're thinking of launching other products maybe down the line or with this one. So when you buy the tent, do you also want the LED light? Do you also want the, camping gear, the, metallic silverware, magnetic silverware, which we just did with Gosan? And then do you want these other products? Like what would be the perfect bundle if we were to continue to launch new SKUs? What would you be willing to back? So that's where we're getting their advice and their input on it, actually asking for a one-on-one conversation of, hey, you like camping stuff? Great. So do we. These are the things we're thinking of launching. What do you like? And then we're also figuring out price points at that point, right? So in terms of pre-campaign, we're sending them to a landing page that may have multivariate testing of across different, photographs, different benefits, different features, and different price points, where we're saying, okay, if the traffic's coming in and converting at the lower price point at a certain rate, what does it look like at the highest price point that we can get? Does it make sense to potentially launch the product at that high of a price point, because our conversion rate will stay fairly close, given the product, where it's at, or what features and benefits that we're, highlighting on the innovation itself. So almost all of this work should be done before you ever launch a campaign, because you need to get the advice of, okay, my customers like watches, but there's no way you would have known that they would have wanted cycling things unless it was a cycling watch, right? Like if it's just a general all-purpose watch, great. What else do these customers like? Where else do they hang out? Are they on, Main Street or Wall Street? That's going to be a big difference in terms of how you target or how you build out future products, around that, hub and spoke model in terms of the innovation that you're launching the first time. What offshoots of that make sense?
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. Okay, so going back to the listing again, videos. There are two categories of videos broad. This is really, really broad stroking and it's all. I found some videos are led by the founder or founders, where they give the narrative, and others just have a voiceover, which is better. And also from a video standpoint, does the length of the video actually matter?
All right, so I'll work backwards. Length can matter. There's outliers on every single one of those points, right? So polygons, for instance, is a foldable measuring spoon that we did years ago. Pre-campaign, we built up about 80,000 on that email list. We raised $1 million for them. That campaign had no one talking in it, just subtitles, was only 36 seconds long, and we still pre-sold hundreds of thousands of units for them, right? So then there's the other ones where it's a long drawn out 8-minute movie kind of, it just tells the story and you get engaged in the story, and maybe there is, talking, maybe there isn't talking. The majority of Kickstarter campaigns or the video side follow a similar path where they're 2 to 3 minutes, usually about the attention span that we may have these days, really product feature focused. And then towards the end, usually you'll see or feature the founders and kind of talk about what the money means in terms of supporting the campaign and how important it is to them. And the reason they get broken up many times is because you want to be able to create that asset one time and not say Kickstarter in it every time, because your campaign's only 30 or 45 days long. You want to be able to use that asset after the campaign is over. So many times that's going to be a feature keystone piece in your eCommerce, your Amazon, your Shopify, wherever it may be, and you don't want to say Kickstarter in it throughout because you're not on Kickstarter anymore. Like, time has moved on, but you're still selling the innovation, and everything that you put into the video obviously should still help in terms of selling and persuading a customer to purchase it. But overall, most videos now are following a 1.5 to 3 minutes. Length doesn't necessarily matter. Most folks we see, about 75%, are finishing the video regardless of the length, in terms of watching it all the way through. And sometimes they're just ready to buy. They don't even watch the video, right? For those people that you've already educated in the pre-campaign, many of them don't watch the video or watch it to get further, approval of, yes, this is exactly what you said it's going to be. The video looks amazing. I'm in. Let me purchase it. That's
a very, very valid point, especially in regards to the fact that length doesn't necessarily matter. The 2 to 3 minutes thing, and also given the fact that that you don't you can repurpose that video on other channels
Yep.
to educate potential new customers. That's powerful. So they're like two takes. There are two parts of that video: the product centric video, and then the second bit would be the Kickstarter,
Founder story.
yeah,
Yeah.
founder story. Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. Now you just talked about the fact that for the polygon measuring spoon, you acquired 70,000 emails to raise $1 million. Is there any math to calculate like a target? Like sometimes I tell brands I work with that, okay, we need to hit this number of emails for Black Friday for you to hit your Black Friday, targets, because this were the numbers last year. But from a crowdfunding standpoint, is it possible to say, okay, if we hit 10,000 emails, AOV is this much, we're going to raise this much? Is it that formulatic, or if that's a word? Can you put that into something? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, but again, this is crowdfunding. This is a different animal in terms of pre-purchasing a product that doesn't exist yet. This thing you can't just go to the store and go buy, and you can't find it on Amazon yet. So again, mindset is a little bit different. And again, the customer is also very different. These are early adopters. They're used to prototypes. They're used to, innovations being in infant stages and maybe not working perfectly. Go back to look at, Elon Musk's Cybertruck, where he throws a rock right through the glass. It's like, hey, it's not ready yet, but it will be, and it will be perfect. But going back to the math side of things, yeah, we back into many times in terms of what funding numbers should be, or at least setting a public-facing funding goal based on the data that we're seeing. So let's say we acquired 100,000 email addresses pre-campaign, and we have an average conversion rate of 3% and an average order value of $20. For those 3,000 customers that come in with a $20, boom, we've already, hit what was that, 600,000 maybe? That'd be quite a big, or $6,000, $60,000 in terms of funding. My math, it's way too early. Yeah, so in terms of then, that way we can figure out what does day one funding look like. And it's very critical in terms of the success of the overall campaign to hit your funding goal as quickly as possible, to trigger the Kickstarter algorithm in terms of showing your product on the first page of Kickstarter, similar to a Google search results for your name or product, whatever it may be. Kickstarter is getting over 1 million unique visitors every single day. And those people know what Kickstarter is. Likely they have an account, or they're just browsing and shopping, even though Kickstarter says, we're not a shopping website, but they're there. They want to see what the newest innovations in tech are. So it's critical to making sure that your project is on page one for hopefully the entire campaign, if you can maintain it, but at least, very early on to show traction. That then also correlates back into consumer confidence into your campaign, right? No one wants to be the first person on the dance floor having a good time, right? But once there's 100 people out there, everyone wants to join in and, be a part of the party. Same thing with a crowdfunding campaign. You've got to get your early crowd there, backing and supporting the campaign, showing that, hey, there's only 10 early birds left, pledge now, move on with your day and forget about it. So there's definitely a major sense of FOMO that we try and impart, obviously, in our ads and our campaigns and our content that we're putting out there. But these campaigns are usually only active for 30 or 45 days. So likely you want to get the customer there, get them to back, get them to move on with their day. And Kickstarter is really good at, showing that fear of missing out very easily with the amount of funding, the amount of backers that are on a reward, the amount that are remaining, and the amount of time that is left for you to pledge. And potentially this may be the only time that you see this product until it finally is on the store shelves, maybe in a year or two.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. I mean, let's track back to pre-sale. What the pre-sale looks like. Over the last few, let's say the last 5 campaigns you've been involved in, how big have been the email list you've built for them, for each of them, on average?
Yeah, so what we're seeing now is acquiring a highly qualified, engaged buyer, for an early adopter product, if you will. We're seeing acquisition costs anywhere between $1 and $1.30,
Mm.
usually in terms of getting that customer's email address or getting them into our funnel somehow, getting their feedback for it. So based on that, and then backing into our numbers in terms of the funding totals that they need to achieve for their campaign or to place their MOQ, it's going to vary. But most campaigns we're trying to get at least 5 to 10,000 email addresses in our database before the campaign launches to give us enough statistical relevance of saying, hey, which one do you want to buy, which price point works best, what features and benefits are you most excited about on this product. That at least gives us some data early on to figure out how to pitch or pivot the campaign before we launch it. But Kickstarter is nice where we can actually make changes on the campaign page once it goes live.
Okay.
So if we're seeing that moms are engaging it more than dads, specifically for the stair slide, we can make our photos change, with more moms in those photos, or we can change our language on them to be more mom language, those sorts of things. So, we're making adjustments daily on campaign pages based on the data and the targeting and the ads that we're seeing convert.
Thank God for Facebook. What about, so you talked about cost per lead, being about $1 to $1.2. Would that amount to about $10 to $15,000 for pre-sales in the for Facebook spend, or do you see yourself spending a bit more?
We actually spend less because we kind of have a virality engine built into our pre-campaign landing pages. We're incentivizing people to share it with their audiences.
Okay.
Right. So then we just keep this flywheel going in terms of, hey, you like this, you probably have people that like this, so share it. And if your friends come in, then you move up the line. Potentially you may get the product for free. You don't even have to back the campaign. So there's a high engagement level that we're going after in terms of getting our customers to share it, send it, tweet it, like it, whatever it may be. They're getting points. They're moving up that VIP line. So potentially they may get the product for free or be one of the first 100 people to get the email notification that the campaign goes live, so they can get in there an hour ahead of everyone else in terms of getting those early bird rewards because of the work they put in before the campaign launched.
It's pretty clever. Do you use a custom built virality tool, or do you use a third party one?
We've tested with third-party ones, and then we've kind of, molded together our own, proprietary system of how we like to do things there, as well as, with our drip campaigns, our messaging sequences, our email, all of those things. Again, we've refined this now over the last 9 years of running Kickstarter campaigns, and over 2,000 products now we've helped launch. We kind of know what works, what engagement rates we're trying to look for, and what innovations will truly, spark a lot of interest, not only from folks coming in and backing it, but from journalists writing about it and trying to get on national and publication media in terms of the innovation itself.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but we'll push that out slightly later. Okay, what about other channels? So we talked about Facebook and Instagram and the Facebook advertising platform. Are you seeing any traction on any other platforms other than Facebook for activating leads or early backers?
Yeah, so I mean, Facebook is certainly our main channel. It probably took predominance over Google probably 4 years ago now, where we started spending more on Facebook over than Google. We are picking back up much more spend now on YouTube than we ever had. And that's usually because the videos are getting much better, so we can actually run advertising through the video. So you're basically watching the Kickstarter video as an ad. If you're interested, you go to the campaign page and pledge and back it. So we're actually increasing, our overall ad spend quite significantly now on YouTube, which is interesting because these products do take some explaining usually to understand. It's not, very few of them are you instantly get it. Because of the novelty and the newness of it, you're more like, oh, I didn't know I had that problem, but thank you for solving that problem for me after a 1 or 2 minute explainer video on what this is and why they should back it. So YouTube's definitely on the rise for us, but we're constantly testing platforms from Snapchat to TikTok to you name it. If Pinterest is actually, an interesting one more on the e-commerce side, I think, where we're seeing some good traction there for post-crowdfunding success on the Pinterest side of things because of that engaged buyer audience that's on there. But, our main two channels, Google, YouTube, and Facebook.
Okay. You mentioned driving traffic to the Kickstarter campaign page. How different is that from driving traffic to the pre-sales page? I lost you there.
Yeah, so it depends on if the campaign is active, right? We're typically not doing pre-campaign lead generation on YouTube because we don't have any assets yet, except maybe some photos. Their video isn't done yet, usually, right? They're still working on it because that's typically the last piece, depending on timelines or if they have everything together for us. But otherwise, if we have photography and lifestyle shots and all of that, we can build out the landing page and we send traffic to that. Tagging and targeting in terms of pixeling the audiences, we can do that either through directly through an interstitial page, sending them into the Kickstarter campaign itself, or coming into the landing page and then getting them to go somewhere. We like to simplify the path for them as much as possible, so just send them straight to the page, because the Kickstarter campaign page will have everything on it, as well as the actual pricing, shipping, and more of the sales copy on it, where our landing page is more of a teaser of the who, why, and benefits of the product itself, and not necessarily all of the content where they can convert.
Okay. What's the anatomy of a pre-sales page? Would you put a video, or would you just put images? Obviously, video is a big asset to put together. What kind of pre-sales pages, landers, are you seeing working really well? That's one question. Second is, are there any data points like cell phone number, any data points beside email like cell phone number you're collecting?
Yeah, so in terms of the campaign pages, we're constantly changing our landing pages based on the data, heat tracking, analytics that we're seeing, right? So we're actually going through a big refresh right now on a lot of our pages. But the overall anatomy of them is make the product front and center. You've got, that's what you're there to buy, right? So clever, catchy headline, whatever it may be. Potentially the headline, sits in front of the hero image, or if we can create a nice GIF where it's, actual motion of it, or the product's getting broken apart and you can see the dynamics of it and the engineering of it. That seems to work pretty well as well, because again, you're selling an early prototype of this thing. You've got to show and explain why and how it works better than the current thing that they may have.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Klaviyo is a growth marketing platform that powers over 25,000 online businesses. Klaviyo understands every single customer interaction and empowers brands to create more personalized marketing moments. Listen, analyze, and act on your customer data with Klaviyo. Visit klaviyo.com/2x.
Then through the page, there's multiple different sign-up spots for email addresses, typically is the main data point that we're trying to acquire. Photography benefit, all the way through the page. And then there's more of that virality engine at the bottom in terms of, hey, you signed up, great, share it, move up the line, do this, move up the line, those sorts of things. But very clean, and then if they sign up, we're testing as well of sending them to hey, you just signed up for this cool innovation. You can either go check out our cool innovation Facebook page like that, so you can see all the new stuff that's coming out. Here's a most recent blog of the top 5 products that we've just launched on Kickstarter, or you can go and back our top project, whatever it may be. So again, giving them kind of a path to go. And really, we want customers to have an account on Kickstarter just because, it's easier for us to then convert them into the future. So getting them over to Kickstarter if they don't have an account. The problem with Kickstarter is there's no Facebook pixel implementation on their site, right? So we lose a lot of data there, but we figured out ways to, kind of close the loop on traffic that comes in through our surveying technology that we've built out. But otherwise, we want them to have an account on there. We want them to be already signed in, have the mobile app, whatever it may be, so that when they see this launch, they can click, buy, on with their day, right? And they can do that within 10 seconds.
Okay. Can you insert a pixel on an Indiegogo page?
Yeah, so Indiegogo has built out that wonderful technology for all of us marketers to be able to put pixels on the campaign page itself and retarget traffic that comes to that page. Kickstarter does not yet.
Okay. Do you think they have it in the pipeline, Kickstarter, or?
We've our Facebook agency team has been working with the Kickstarter engineering team for 4 years now, working through that system. And it comes down to, I believe, more or less, and again, I'm not in many of those conversations anymore, but a privacy concern that Kickstarter has with consumers' data and their backers' data, and whether or not it's getting passed through and those sorts of things. Because very early on, Kickstarter kind of didn't like agencies. You know, they wanted campaigns to fund naturally. They wanted it to be such a novel invention that people would just find it organically and they would come in and back it, and you wouldn't need to advertise, you know, and those sorts of things. And finally, over the last 5 or 6 years of working with our agency, you know, being a Kickstarter expert has certainly helped, because, you know, we take data very seriously in terms of who we're working with and the traffic that's coming through into it. But we've had to build our own systems, you know, to optimize our campaigns better and provide a better service for our clients.
Rainbows and unicorn expectation from Kickstarter to just let things organically take place.
Yeah,
okay, cool.
That'd be wonderful.
All right. So you said you're not part of the Facebook team. So where do you focus 80% of your time now in the whole crowdfunding thing?
Yeah, certainly do a lot of speaking, you know, engagements in that in terms of talking about crowdfunding. You know, again, it's still in its infancy, so there's still an education that needs to happen, you know, and I feel like the steward of being a king of crowdfunding, if you will. And really it's more or less, you know, future in terms of where are we going? Where's this industry headed? How are consumers changing their shopping behaviors now in the future? What might that look like? And really lighting a fire under inventors, you know, bums, to launch those innovations that they're sitting on, you know, because everybody has those product ideas. So really it's more of, you know, being an inspirational torchbearer for the entrepreneur and inventor community to bring these innovations to market, because, you know, there's a lot of great inventions out there, but, you know, whether they have the capital or not, you know, I'm working on trying to, you know, bring more inventions to market, and then kind of figure out where the future of marketing is, where the future of our company goes. You know, it was 4 years ago we merged with Enventys, the product development firm, to be a turnkey product launch company, because we had so many customers coming to us, because we were just the marketing agency, the magical hand behind all of the $1 million campaigns on Kickstarter. We saw a need in the inventor community of saying, hey, it'd be great if you could also build our thing. And we were just referring all of that business out, saying, hey, we can't build it, but come back to us when it's ready. And there was such a mutual, you know, agreement based on what Enventys product development company and what my agency Command Partners was doing to really come together and be the one-stop shop for an inventor to truly bring their product to market, do it more cost efficiently, and use every room in the building with all of the experts that we have. Because Enventys had been doing product development for 20 years. You know, we have factories, we have engineering teams, we have all of the 3D printers and laser jets and water jets and engineering to basically build these things. And this is exactly what a Kickstarter inventor needs, is just, hey, here's my invention, what do you think of it? Oh, it looks great. Yeah. Maybe we can share in on that. Maybe let's do a joint venture together, and I'll do, you know, put my sweat equity into building this thing, and we launch it together and build a brand around it. So we're doing that a lot more in terms of working with, whether it be Amazon sellers, you know, where they want to launch their own brands and, you know, launch their own products instead of reselling everything else that's on Alibaba or whatever it may be, or it's working with the garage tinkerer and finally, you know, bringing that prototype to market. So, you know, really, I'm just trying to find as many inventors as I can, bring them into the fold, educate them on why crowdfunding, you know, is the future of, you know, direct to consumer.
It is. And what I'm also saying is, you know how, you know how like brands use content marketing. When I mean content marketing, it could be a YouTube channel, it could be, you know, an active Instagram social media community to build an audience, and then they pretty much sell to that audience and they create lookalikes off the back of it. I'm seeing brands also take another route where they are building these audiences with product launches. So they're not necessarily new brands, but they're using product launches to create new audiences, to engage your audience, and they're just cycling it, from that perspective. So it's more like a product-led way of building audiences, rather than just creating content or using social media essentially. I've seen a brand that has launched 5 Kickstarter campaigns. The first one was like 200 grand, and every other one was over $1 million. And they're getting new customers off the back of every new launch, and building the business off the back of that. So in regards to what you're doing, do you have like an active community of inventors, or people with product ideas you're nurturing now, or an incubator of sorts?
Absolutely. Yeah, so it was actually a sister company or a sub company under Enventys before we got there, called Edison Nation, which is basically 150,000 inventors around the world, and they submit their product ideas in. Edison Nation reviews their product ideas and sees if it's something that they want to partner with or do a licensing deal or whatever it may be. We ended up helping out with their Regulation A equity crowdfunding campaign that they ran a few years ago, before helping them go public on the stock market now. And there is, a massive community there in terms of, just the inventors as well. Plus we have, multiple pages where people follow to be inventors or engage with us. We're even running, like Shark Tanks internally in our building to get, our employees engaged in terms of, hey, I'm sure you guys have product ideas. Let's launch something that you guys have, an interest in. So we've done that before in terms of, finding an innovation inside of our building, running a successful crowdfunding campaign, getting our first 1,000 customers for it, making the thing, and then now selling it on Amazon. And, we're trying to continue that flywheel in terms of more engagement and just keeping that going, because we've worked with many, many founders on Kickstarter that have launched, half a dozen campaigns with us. Most recently, Adrian Solgaard built a massive, travel community around his products, and then the pandemic hit and nobody was traveling. So he pivoted very quickly to launch a home product called Home Base. And we ended up doing that campaign using that crowd that he had built and said, hey, I think this is something that you guys would love at home now. And, we pre-sold $600,000 worth of units for it, not only off of his crowd, but finding new audiences that he can go into future, verticals with in terms of at-home products when nobody's traveling. So really it allows you to test all of these things, all while making revenue for them and building the crowd that you then own to continue to re-engage with, and then build more and more content around.
Exactly. That makes a lot of sense. How many JVs have you actively secured from your portfolio of clients? You said you've launched over 2,000 products in the last 9 years. So how many of those 2,000 products are JVs?
Handfuls. Again, each startup's in a different position, right? So some of them have the availability to bring us in, some of them don't. Some of them have done Series A that have, significant capital behind them in terms of for marketing budget and putting them out there. But, again, it's a very flexible opportunity that we have in terms of, hey, where are you at? Do you have the money? If not, okay, maybe we can figure something out to work with you. And for us, that's really important because we want to, highlight these ideas and these innovations and not keep them on the shelves because capital got in the way. We want to, we have our own separate fund set up called Start 100. So listeners can go to start100.com and apply. And we're, giving, through deals about $50,000 per opportunity for them to help with the engineering or the marketing or to bring their product to market using crowdfunding as a litmus test for it. So there's a ton of opportunities out there, at least internally, that we've built to be able to really bring these innovations to market. And if money gets in the way, we figure out a way to make it work.
Okay, makes sense. We're running out of time, but I really wanted us to touch upon the transition from crowdfunding to a full-fledged brand. How, from your experience, the best in class of I'll call them graduates, graduating from crowdfunding to to a full-fledged, successful, DTC company. What is the formula, if there's any, of that smooth transition? Because a lot of Kickstarter campaigns fail from a deliverability standpoint. How do you minimize failure by, I don't know, how do you minimize failure, and how do you, transition to becoming that full-fledged brand? And would you tap into crowdfunding again as a cycle to continue to grow the brand?
Absolutely. Yes. I mean, yeah. At the end of the day, it really does come down to quite a few things. I mean, the product being the first thing, right? Why did you make it? Who is this for? What are the benefits of it? Did you solve a problem? That's the product, right? Did you get protection for it? Did you get a patent? Did you go down that route and make sure that your innovation is protected now from the future, or hopefully from, the folks that are looking at Kickstarter to rip off product ideas, and Fidget Cube is probably the #1 case study for that. And then, really, was there the paid budget, the promotion there? Were you able to bring in the right audiences for that? Did the price work? And then how did you nurture those people? How did you communicate with that crowd that you built? How did you continually engage those folks in terms of, hey, it's delayed, or hey, it's getting made, or hey, it's shipped. Hey, we're thinking of launching another campaign. Here's the products ideas. Really involving that crowd because they want to be involved. That's why they're on Kickstarter. It's a community. Embrace that. Really, it gives you a chance as a founder, an entrepreneur, to have a one-on-one discussion with someone that's buying your thing without even sight unseen. They can't even touch it, play with it, have an experience with it. So looking at those sorts of things, really understanding who that crowd is, and maybe it's just 100 people, maybe it's 1,000 people, but that's a great place to start as an e-commerce brand, having a foundation to then build off of different verticals or paths to go down with future products and future rollouts. So constant communication with your community is critical to the overall success of your brand after a crowdfunding campaign is completed. I can't emphasize that enough, because many times founders just go off and start making their thing and they're not even updating their crowd. So typically we want our founders to update their crowd, their community, at least once per month while they're in the development stages or the shipping stages or whatever it may be. Kickstarter's back end allows you to continue to update your audience and all of your backers as often as you want in terms of getting them updates on there. So really, again, setting a solid foundation and building off of that can make successful, direct-to-consumer e-commerce brands continue to grow. And then off of that, yes, most of our campaigns continually relaunch new products on Kickstarter because that's where their crowd is most comfortable converting. Yeah. Right? So their credit card isn't necessarily on there. It may be on there, but they already have an account. They're already signed up, and they like backing innovations and seeing the progress that it comes through there. So fish where the fish are. Your fish, your crowd is on Kickstarter. So go back to that well, that pond, and fish there for the new innovation, because likely they've been involved the entire time when you've been asking them for feedback of new products to launch. You were doing that through Kickstarter.
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Is your e-commerce store powered by Magento, BigCommerce, Commerce Cloud, WooCommerce, or a custom CAT platform? Is it slow? Does it have too many fields or involves too many steps to complete a purchase? Enter Bolt. It's the fastest e-commerce checkout in the industry, period. Bolt loads 10x faster than native checkouts with an average checkout duration of just over 30 seconds. Bolt is mobile native with no scroll on mobile screens. It offers a zero fraud guarantee and has 42% fewer fields than native checkouts. Bolt supports Stripe, Apple Pay, PayPal, and several more payment gateways and providers. Bolt helped luxury sunglasses brand Dita reduce checkout abandonment by 32%, which resulted in a 50% conversion rate uplift. Don't lose customers at checkout, use Bolt. Bolt is offering a completely free bottom of funnel checkout audit to 2x e-commerce listeners. Head over to bolt.com/2x to get your free checkout audit now. That's bolt.com/2x.
So they have that habit now of going back to Kickstarter, getting an update. Oh, you're about to launch. Cool. I'm an early adopter. I'm a early backer of this other campaign, you're going to give me the benefit and the early bird discount when that new innovation launches because I had a say in it. And because I had a say in it, likely I'm more likely to convert in it than just something I'm seeing cold for the first time.
Yeah, yeah. I'm seeing that there's this brand called Lark, LARQ, Lark Pitcher.
Yeah, we're working on that campaign.
Are you serious? Whoa! It was fully funded in 3 minutes.
They've run previous campaigns, right? So they already had a crowd.
Exactly.
It's helpful, right? So
yeah.
like they were engaged. They did the right sequences in terms of, hey, when we launched our first campaign, great, thanks for backing it. What else do you want? Oh, you're tired of that ugly Brita filter in your, in your fridge? Cool. We're going to reinvent that too. Like, thanks for your feedback here. We're about to launch. This is almost done. And they're going to be on Shark Tank this year as well.
Wow. You haven't done yourself sufficient justice in introducing, yourself in the sense that, your client portfolio, as in, I didn't realize you were behind Lark.
Yeah, so we're, the advertising team behind most big campaigns, most $1 million campaigns. I think we've worked on 85 separate $1 million projects now. So, after raising $300 million for our clients, I think this season we'll end up having our 24th or 25th client on Shark Tank now. It's just really fun nurturing these startups and guiding them through to make sure they don't make mistakes that other founders may have made years and years ago. We're able to guide them, much more cost effectively into the future in terms of what that roadmap looks like and helping them with that roadmap in terms of launching more and more innovations to their community.
Okay, so after this call, I would definitely reach out to you to give me a list of your biggest campaign so I could put it in the show notes because, we haven't done you sufficient justice in terms of like the campaigns you're behind. It's insane. You're behind Lark. Lark was fully funded in 3 minutes and their goal was like 30-something grand, I think. And they 50 grand. The goal was about £38,000, which should have been $50,000, and they raised £500,000, which would be about $700,000. And it's going strong. And if you are behind it, you're certainly doing wonders. With a lot of other campaigns.
There's another active campaign as well that you'll be even more impressed with that we're doing some promotion for as well called Meizen. So they launched basically a stovetop, like crock pot type thing product. I'm not even doing it justice, but that raised, I think, over $1 million on launch day because of the crowd that's been behind all of the knife campaigns that we've worked on as well for Omar and his team over at Meizen. So again, I mean, I could go on and on for days of all of the different products that we get to work on, but, we're actively doing marketing for anywhere between, 40 to 60 crowdfunding innovations that are, trying to find their crowd, trying to find their community.
Incredible. What are your thoughts on SMS? Do you think it's going to be the next big thing, or do you think, brands should focus on email?
I like both. Email is still amazing. So we're actually one of the only US-based MailChimp certified agencies. So all of my email marketing team has been certified by MailChimp, which is amazing because, they do their due diligence and they're a massive, email marketer in the world. So, we take email very seriously. We operate, millions of email addresses and we're sending out millions of emails every single week. So I do love email, but, SMS is very interesting because your phone number is tied to your identity. Like, you don't lose your phone number. Usually you don't change phone numbers unless you're moving to a different country or something like that and you need to. And every social account is tied to that phone number. So phones are tied to us. We're, the social dilemma on Netflix, right? I mean, it's just, that's our identity. So being able to reach a customer in their pocket and, reward them for the ding, be like, oh, what's this? What's this? What's that? Our anxiety levels are so high these days. So, oh, it's great. I got, somebody just texted me about this cool product that's launching. Let me check it out. So yes, we're using SMS a lot more than we used to. We're also using like push notifications through Chrome and the browsers, which are working incredibly well now as well. Folks are signing up for those on the regular. So we're seeing increased engagement on that side as well.
What are your thoughts on WhatsApp and Messenger?
Yeah, big fan of bots and automation. WhatsApp to be able to reach a global audience. Where 75% of the Kickstarter audience is typically based in the United States, major metro, on the coastline kind of things. So certainly, reaching those audiences is critical. But, on the international side, there are certainly hot spots of early adopters around the world that we're trying to reach, whether it be through advertising or messaging. But it's a little bit different in terms of, how we engage on each platform. But both, I'm a big fan of ManyChat, been to their conferences, every year that they've had those. And it's just amazing the overall growth of the messaging community, as well as using it as a customer service tool. It's really amazing the automations that you can put into that and really just engage the audience at the right time about shipping updates or customer service inquiries, or, there has to be a human at the end of it. But, I think the automation side of things and bots can do a lot of the heavy lifting for you. And then that final handoff of, no, I really just want to talk to a person. And then you can, hand it off, nice and succinctly.
Right. Roy, I could go on all day, with you. This is really interesting, and I might just invite you on for another show at some point in the future. But before I let you go, what are your top 3 Kickstarter campaigns of all time you've been involved in?
Oh, that's tough. That's like picking your favorite child. You just don't do that. I'll tell you my favorite campaign of all time is a product called Bunch of Balloons.
Okay.
So Josh Malone, an inventor down in Texas, came to us with the idea of, he had 8 children, which I don't know. It's amazing. He had 8 kids. Anyway, he would sit out there and tie water balloons all day, and he wouldn't get to play with his kids. So he came up with the invention of Bunch of Balloons, basically, where these water balloons were pre-tied and they automatically fell off, where you could just, boom, have 35 water balloons like that. You just tie it onto the end of the spigot. I brought a prop. Okay. So this was the original Bunch of Balloons.
My son has that.
Packaging. Yeah. His son was on the cover. You probably can't see it. But this is like the original packaging, word art. Like, I think these were grapes and they made them look like balloons. All right. But again, he came to us with this invention and said, Roy, I think, this is a great invention. I was like, absolutely. I wish I had that when I was a kid.
You screw it to the tap and then the water just comes. And then they start doing water bombs. They just destroy a garden with it. With the,
so one of the, so we launched his campaign, I think, back in 2013. Wow. We were the first, that was the first campaign ever on national television. So we got him on the Today Show, and he had a water balloon fight with Carson Daly in Rockefeller Center. Wow. Neither of them hit each other with water balloons to make even better TV, but it was just, the first Kickstarter campaign on TV, and that brought in, I think, $250,000 just from that show segment. Mm-hmm. It went on to raise just under $1 million. Some of the feedback that we got during the campaign was, oh, you need to make sure those balloons are biodegradable, because I don't want to go around my yard picking up all of those things.
Exactly.
So we were able to, pivot, and the company was able to, change the engineering of the balloons itself. So the campaign ends. Josh was then able to do a licensing deal with one of the largest toy manufacturers in overseas, Zuru, where they took on all of the manufacturing for it. And I think last year they've shipped over 2 billion water balloons. Just, in that year. So it's amazing to see that innovation, come all the way through in terms of now just being, a staple for summertime fun now.
Yeah. I like to, we didn't even talk about how to attract the press. How do you attract, the press to a campaign? Do you mind just sharing really quickly any tips on there?
Yes, I mean, given that we've been in the industry longer than any other marketing agency, we've built relationships with journalists that were writing about this as a side gig. It's just crowdfunding. Oh, what's that? Okay, there's some cool innovations there. I'll write about it once a week. And now many of these journalists, this is their full-time thing, where they're writing about new innovations every day, because there's hundreds of new products that are launching every day and thousands of new innovations every week. So relationships are paramount, in journalism, right? It's, making sure that your pitch is done correctly in their tone, in their voice, or things that they typically write about. I can't emphasize, again, doing your research now, because back when we started doing this, there wasn't a foundation to build off of. You were just more or less randomly pitching folks that were writing about innovations or tech or fashion or kitchen gadgets, whatever it may be. But now you understand who those authors are. They've been writing about it for years. It's much easier to find them, engage with them. But really, it begins with the relationship. So adding as much value to that relationship as you can early on before going in for the ask, the Gary V, jab, 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 right hook, right? Where it's going in that way and being like, give, and like, hey, I know I've been a big fan of this community, this crowd, the articles that you write. Here's this thing that I've finally been working on. I'd love your feedback on it. And really just going in that angle seems to work. But as well as just, interviewing this new founder always can work, because usually this is the first time they're coming out in the public with their idea or their innovation. So likely they can do founder spotlights or the innovation itself, but it's incredibly difficult to pitch a product that doesn't exist and there's no prototype for a journalist to even look at or see, so they're just talking about potentially random stuff. And it's much more difficult in terms of the PR folks out there writing about these things, or at least pitching about these things, to get significant coverage for it. But at the end of the day, PR typically doesn't drive conversions, at least tracked revenue from the resources itself. That may be 5 to 10% of the overall campaign funding. But what it does do is adds trust statements and signals to the backers when you see as featured in Time or Entrepreneur or Inc. or whatever it may be. Oh, they wrote about it. It must be as advertised. Credible.
Exactly.
Right? Exactly. So it adds to the overall credibility of the founder delivering the product and of the innovation itself, hopefully coming to market as advertised.
Okay. Incredible stuff. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. This has been a very, very interesting conversation, Roy, and it could go on forever. So for listeners that want to find out more about crowdfunding, about not just crowdfunding, but product development through to crowdfunding, through to post crowdfunding and e-commerce, your website is enventorspartners.com. I'm going to link to it in the show notes. It's ENVENTYSPARTNERS. I'll link to it in the show notes.com. Are you active on any social media channels, or how best can people sort of follow you and your work?
Well, after watching The Social Dilemma, I just deleted everything. I'm not. I'm not. Unfortunately, I've got to be on the social channels these days.
Yeah.
So you can find me pretty much. I'm the only Roy Morejon out there on the interwebs.
Okay.
And then you can find me on my podcast, Art of the Kickstart, where I interview other founders that are actually launching innovations in Kickstarter products. And then, anywhere else on the internet and social media, I'm out there with just my name, Roy, R-O-Y, last name Morejon, M-O-R-E-J-O-N.
Okay. Art of the Kickstart. I would link to that also in the show notes. Thank you so much, Roy. It's been a pleasure having you, and cheers. Thanks. Bye.
Yeah, I appreciate it.